Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome to the Medium Rare Podcast, where our thoughts are half cooked, but the conversation's well done. I'm your host, Brett Owens, and I'm here with Alex DiToronto,
Hey, guys.
Sahil Gulani,
Hey.
and Tucker Mills.
It's gonna get spooky.
Our special guest producer, Jesse, our favorite producer. Sort of.
Appreciate you.
So anyway, you guys want to get started with some stories? Anything happened this week to anyone?
I got one.
Okay.
Well, it's not. It didn't really happen.
Or not this week, but just at any point in your life that you want to talk about.
It's just a good story that happened. It's around Halloween because we're coming up on Halloween. So last week, this is our last episode of October.
Yep.
Coming up on Halloween, and so this is about the first time I ever went trick or treating. I was never allowed to as a kid. My parents were very against Halloween. Like, they'd buy me a costume after Halloween, but not when they're all on
It's
sale.
the devil's birthday. You can't do it.
Yeah, that kind of deal.
You're coming to church and we're going to sing for 3 hours.
I mean, I love my
Thank
parents.
you, Mother.
This was just something that really got under my skin.
That and Pokemon.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, don't even get me started
Yeah.
on that in Harry Potter.
Yeah. No.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Second to everything.
We
you
live
guys
in the
just said.
South, so
Yes.
just for reference.
Yeah.
Southern
And
Baptist.
there's a lot of satanic panic, I guess, around that time. But so growing up, I couldn't trick or treat, couldn't participate in Halloween things. I would go to the fall festivals at churches and stuff.
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat, yeah.
Those, yeah.
Those were fun.
Was
Those were pretty
banging.
lit.
I mean,
them church people.
you got a lot
really
of
generous
generous
from the
from
You
candy.
could scoop it in instead of getting a little piece of candy from every
It's all
house.
about giving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Amen.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You just tell them you have a cousin who hasn't come to the Lord yet, and they're like, "Oh, here's extra candy
For him.
for him."
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, and
just
they
so
was
that
the
he can
cakewalks.
change. Show him that Christians are cool.
Cakewalks were dope.
Bro, I walked away with dozens of donuts at those things.
Huh? You got donuts?
Yeah, no, there was a trunk or treat and then cakewalk inside, and I was like, hell
I
yeah.
Sometimes people were
I
cheap
do
and
like
just buy
me a
donuts.
cakewalk.
Yeah.
And they had the little cotton candy machine. That shit
Yeah.
was banging.
And you never had to worry about needles in your candy or poison.
Guns.
Not yet.
Let me just
Find a gun in your
I
Kit Kat
did bar.
My mom double checked my candy sometimes.
let me just go ahead
It's a
and
cult church.
disclose that
Poison everyone.
there's no recorded sightings or happenings of anything being drugged,
No.
any candy being drugged, or any needles being found in any apples. Sorry, guys. Sorry, parents.
Because they died, so they can't.
A lot of people have
afford
given
it.
out edibles before.
Man,
I have
nobody
seen that.
is giving out free edibles.
No, rich people are.
I don't know about
I
that.
wouldn't.
I wouldn't
personally.
know.
I would keep that
Okay,
shit for
nice
me.
middle class neighborhood.
That ain't
First
it,
time. Hey guys. First time I went trick or treating. I was a tubby
Oh yeah,
boy.
you're telling a story.
I would think
forgot.
I was in 8th grade. Yes, I was in
Oh,
8th
you are?
grade, which was my peak tubbiness.
Oh boy, we were all there.
Peak
I'm still there.
tubbiness.
Kyle Flores behind the camera just shaking his head.
That was the best shape of my life.
8th grade was right before I started wrestling and working out, so I was I was a round blueberry boy. Very not confident.
Self-unconscious.
Self-conscious.
just confident.
Self-conscious. That was the word. So, that was the first year that morph suits came out, and they were huge. But nobody had really caught on just yet. And and so I was with my friend James. Shout out James. And we decided to go trick or treating. And it stopped. I know.
You were the one that wanted to stop it, and then you did the first one.
I know.
Of the show.
So, he lived in actually Jesse's old neighborhood, which is a pretty big neighborhood.
French. Yeah.
Yeah.
French.
Yeah, shout out France. Not shout out France though, but also don't shout out France.
So, we decided to go trick or treating in his neighborhood,
Started giving out his address.
and we went to Party City together, and it was the first year they had morph suits. So he goes and buys one. I think there was $60 probably back then, or probably $60.
Jeez.
And I didn't have that kind of money. I was about to sell my Xbox to buy one. And my parents said, no, this is a dumb decision. You shouldn't do it. Probably actually helping me out because I was a tubby boy. But they triggered something worse.
They're laughing.
these
in the-
morph
It's
suits-
they say goodnight to you. They go to the room such a dumbass kid we got, man. He's trying to get a morph suit.
Dude, you
It's
get
badass.
the morph suits just show off everything you don't want shown off. It
didn't.
makes everything that needs to be big small, and everything that needs to be small big.
I didn't
you just
know
look
that.
like you're fat with a little pee.
now.
You just look fat with a little pee-pee is what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I
say.
didn't know this.
Or a big peepee.
All right, continue.
So I was too broke to buy one. My 8th grade self didn't have a job. So I decided to make my own.
Oh, no.
So I went to my friend's house, and he had a lot of Under Armour. He was one of those guys that would wear Under Armours.
Neon Under Armour?
Well, lots of
You
Under
should
Armour.
just have a patchy ass.
He would just wear an Under Armour shirt, like the skin tight Under Armour shirts, to school because he was skinny and he had biceps for a ninth grader. And so I was like,
the teachers are just like, wow, look at that 8th grader. So muscular.
So he's like, oh, you can just use some of my Under Armour stuff. And he's smaller than me because he's skinny.
Yeah.
And I made my own mask out of his shorts.
No, dude, I knew you were going to say that. So you just had this man's dick sweat in your face.
So I pulled it tight around my face so I could see through
And it was 8th grade.
And
so.
I tied it around the back of my
Fresh
head.
pubes.
Gooch sweat.
fresh, a lot of fresh stuff.
A lot of fresh.
All right. Not going to get into that.
Dude,
in
you
this
put my man's
episode.
shorts on your face.
Shout out James.
So my full body was covered in Under Armour. That's too small for me. And so we go out, and it's real hot in Georgia this Halloween night. And I'm sweating real bad, which makes the morph suit stuff or Under Armour stick tighter to you. It also, in my case, made the shirt start to roll up about halfway up my tummy, and I didn't realize. I went to.
You didn't know?
I didn't know.
It's so tight you can't tell.
You can't tell.
Cutting off the
Yes, I couldn't breathe barely. So by the time I get to one of the
Passes out at someone's front door.
I get to one of the last.
You guys got candy.
Belly up.
Or treat.
It's like the kid from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah.
I went to one of the last houses, and I met Jack Sparrow, who, he was dressed up as Jack Sparrow that year.
Oh, God.
And he was like, bro, you
He breaks
good?"
character.
He was like, bro, I didn't know they sold morph suits in like 10 pieces. I was like,
You've got another
They-
man's underwear on your head. And it's shirt
and
that's rolled up.
he pointed out the fact that my shirt was rolled up,
You were
and
like,
I felt
huh?
real dumb because my love handles were poking out the sides, but like they were up, they were pushed up because the pants were too tight, so they were pushed up over the actual curve, the
You're just
curling
like,
up of the
I'm
shirt.
sorry. He fucking runs away.
Pisses his pants.
I just
He just
rubbed it down,
pisses his pants.
and I went home.
Pisses his pants. So
You've got just, I imagine 2 legs from the underwear just flopped up on your head.
And so
Oh, like
I went
Deku.
home and ate all the candy and got even fatter. So.
God. I don't know if I can remember any trick-or-treating stories that I had. Like, nothing that'll beat that. I can tell you that much.
That was the one and only time I went trick-or-treating, too. I never went again.
Also, don't shout out the neighbors who put like dental floss and apples in your.
But you suck.
trick
You
or
know who
treat.
you are.
Never had that problem.
You're not contributing to society.
don't do that.
Dude, dentist.
This shout out.
Are you a dentist?
Probably.
Why?
Usually it has their dental practice on
card-
the
they
on
have
the
a
side of
card
the,
in
no on the
candy.
side of the dental floss
Oh.
that they're giving out.
This was kind of wrong of me, but in 9th grade, I had this one really good friend, and we were in his neighborhood, and it's like a really nice neighborhood where people leave bowls of candy out. And so we didn't dress up. We just started walking around and
grabbing the
jugging bowls, like
do that.
bowls
You're one of
and
those.
everything.
You're one of those
The
kids.
whole
You
bowl.
took the bowl home.
Yes, and what's weird is like
Your mom's like, thank you. I can use this.
we weren't even walking around. We were in a car. We were just
Jugging candy.
Just stealing.
dude.
That's
what-
theft.
That was 9th grade me for you.
Good.
That's how are you riding around in a car in 9th grade?
No, he could drive.
Oh, I was about to say.
I was the one doing the deed. I was the
one.
one throwing the car, like the whole bowl in the back seat.
Sale just runs out, just heaves a whole bowl of candy.
That's when I started getting athletic too. So I was just like, vroom.
I'm fast.
Wow, I didn't know I was fast.
Doing that hit cardio on the way
Yeah.
to the door and back.
yeah.
All right, do we have any more trick or treat stories? I guess anything going on in your lives?
Or any funny stories at all.
I don't have a trick or treat story, but I have a nice dream I had.
Okay, we all love. Did you write it down like
as
last
soon-
time?
Yes, as soon as I woke up, I typed it in again.
Fantastic.
But he told me he didn't remember typing it, right? Is
Oh no,
that
that
same
was
the
dream?
last
the one we
one.
talked
Oh.
about before. Yeah, I didn't remember this one. I remember waking up because after that, like I actually got up and did whatever. But this one, I kind of actually remember like bits and pieces of it. It wasn't like I looked back on it and was like, oh, I don't remember that. But I'll just read it. Okay. So this is me like describing it. Playing a World of Warcraft-esque game, but the gameplay felt like DayZ.
God.
And it wasn't me being me playing, but it was like I was someone else playing, like a YouTuber. Like, you know how you can watch videos on YouTube of someone playing? It was like only like that's all I could see in my eyes.
You were
like,
watching someone else play.
But it was you?
me playing. It was like third person, but it was like
Oh, he was watching himself in the third person. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was like but in my
So,
own eyes.
it was
Like
like-
an out-of-body experience?
Yes. Yeah, it was really weird.
Or you just recorded an episode of you playing a game and then you watched it.
Yeah.
But with nothing else besides that, all I could see. There was no like screen I was looking at. It was like that's all I could see was the game was playing like in my vision.
It just
That
felt
was it.
like
It felt like it was
Okay.
so strange. But the characters you could play as were very strange, like humanoid animals. I know one of the characters that was attacking me was a gorilla with a cat's head, and another one was a reptilian bird, like of sort. It was
like
really
the
weird.
Snallygaster?
It was a
Snallywag or
That's what it
something.
was.
Whatever the
I remember.
folklore I had.
I remember them attacking me while I was okay, so I'll go into my character. I was just playing as a human. I was just a normal
you
person.
Didn't you didn't do anything
but
cool.
I was blue, and my
Is it
powers.
Is it just you and you're blue?
Oh no, I was blue, but I had the ability to like heal myself in water.
Okay,
That's
so like
blue in
Poseidon.
water.
Real interesting.
Not sure what attacking powers I had. And the one scene I definitely remember was being in the shower of a random building. Like I was running away from people
What a
that were
fun
attacking
game.
me. It felt like GTA. Like you can go in the shower and you
Oh.
like. That's what it felt like. I was in there like trying to heal myself in the water. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like fully
Right.
clothed. I wasn't naked. I was like still in my clothes, like just like trying to heal myself.
Plus 9 health.
And but then the gorilla and the reptilian bird, they found me and attacked me while I was in the shower. It was funny, but it was really terrifying at the
respawn?
time. I don't remember ever dying.
He woke
I just
up.
like I woke up. Like after that, I declared war on them. I do remember that. It was like some weird like I just declared war on them, and then I woke up. It was really strange.
I want to say it'd be like that, but like
really
it
don't.
don't be like
It
that.
sounds like a good game. I'd play it again. I played it once.
I just gotta go back to sleep.
Game
Yeah.
design. You should go into game design for that.
I can't do that,
Bro, I guess since we're on the spooky
Obviously.
topic,
Obviously,
like since we're on like this last episode of October,
spooky.
this nightmare I used to have was this clown dragging me by my
Oh,
feet.
Yep, that was
Is this
And
the-
that was a dream that or a nightmare that Brett actually turned into a short film.
yeah, me and Jesse.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
your
Yeah, that was
Jesse,
Slumberland.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
episode
Yeah, no.
2.
Well, one prologue was one.
Chapter 1, episode
Chapter-
2.
Yeah, there we go.
And so like when we moved into our house, I remember my sister's room, like, and she wasn't old enough to sleep in it, so it was just an empty room. And I just remember being so petrified of that room, and then I started having nightmares for like 4 or 5 years, like straight of
the
this
same thing.
of the same thing, and it was the same scenario. It was a clown with blue like face paint, long hair, and like a cloak, grabbing me by my ankles, and I'm like grabbing onto the carpet, but he's like pushing me, and he's like grabbing, like pulling me towards the room. That shit was creepy.
That reminds me of a funny story that I had while having a nightmare.
Nice.
I was in a bathtub.
Swallow.
No.
I have a good one. That's
Rebecca can attest to this one because she had to wake me up. But I was in a
Screaming in your
bathtub.
sleep.
I was. That's what I'm gonna get to. I was in a bathtub, and it was right after we were getting ready to start we were storyboarding for Slumberland or something. We were trying to work on like a horror thing, and so the whole night.
it was that whole night when we were just like talking about scary,
Reading
like you
scary
left the
stories.
house and you're just like, I
Hey,
hope
man,
I
you
don't
gotta
get
walk me
killed.
to my car.
Yeah, I ended up literally walking him downstairs.
Hold my hand.
yeah. No, but I fell asleep, or I was in this bathtub, and I remember like dunking myself in the bathtub, just like seeping, going into the water, and I look up, and Mike Myers comes up over the bathtub, and I remember jumping out of the water, and he goes to stab me, and I was like screaming in my dream, but I woke up going, "Ah!" And Rebecca was like, Brett, wake up. And I was just like, hurry up.
She probably thought you had like a brain aneurysm or something.
She was like, he's dying, I think. He's having a stroke.
It sounds like Freddy Krueger more so.
But
Right?
it was Mike Myers what I saw. It was the Mike Myers mask.
Right, but like in the movie, it's Freddy Krueger
Yeah.
coming
Freddy
up under the
Krueger,
bathtub and pulling her under or whatever.
No, that was in her bed, right?
The bathtub and
Bathtub.
bed.
I don't know
Okay.
anything about movies.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you don't like horror movies? Oh, okay.
Oh, well.
It's crazy.
It'd be like that sometimes.
On God, it'd be
I
like.
guess that's it then for us for that.
I mean, I have a.
You got one?
It's not a like a weekly story, but it's kind of like a ghost story,
Go
like a
with
scary.
Go for it.
I'm gonna go with it.
Go with it, bruh.
Okay, so a little bit of context, and let me just check the time just so I know. Okay. So a little bit of context. The first house my wife and I lived in was
I've heard this story so many times.
an older house. I'm only going to do one segment of it because it could go really long.
Yeah, go for it.
Anyways, the house used to be accompanied, or who used to live in there was this lady who was a hoarder. And she passed away, and they needed someone to live in the house or else it would go into foreclosure. And so they gave us a really good deal on rent to live there. So anyways, Brittany lived in the house a couple months before we got married, and then shortly after I moved in after we got married. And it was really creepy. Like a lot of weird things like happened. But there's this one thing that stuck out to me. There was this phone in the kitchen. It was like a landline phone. And when we first like moved in, did the walkthrough, the landlords were basically telling us like, yeah, this is an old phone, just keep it unplugged. Like if you don't want it to ring and stuff. If not, like you'll get calls. Like some of the lady that passed away's like old friends sometimes still call and stuff, and just different like telemarketing, all that stuff. So just unplug it, and we're like, okay. So we had it unplugged, and they were also like really anal about people. Like there's a lot of security system type stuff. The son of the mom that passed away, she was older. He was like super protective of his mom's stuff. And so like he put up like these like fake lights in the windows to make it look like there was a TV on. They had a new alarm system installed. It was like a motion sensor alarm, new locks and all that stuff. And I'm just trying to build the scenery, but basically,
And it's an older house.
it was. I mean, I want to say like at least. What do you think?
I mean,
1950s.
1950s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
40s or 50s.
Mostly ranch style home, and then not completely secluded, but there's a little bit of land where you guys were, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the I guess the criteria of us living there was, they want someone to live there that was cool with them, like leaving their his mom's stuff in there. They cleared out the living room for us, a couple bedrooms, a bathroom, and the kitchen. And all the other rooms were locked and had the mom's stuff in there. And when I say they had stuff in there, it was like up to the ceiling. Like this lady literally, like everything you can think of was in those rooms.
Yes.
And there's a lot of weird things that happen, like the doors that were locked. Like we would come home and the doors would be open. One time when I was getting up to go to the bathroom at night, I heard the music box in the back room playing and the door open.
God, like the
Hell
little,
no.
the little like
Wind up thing.
It was a
Wind-up
little,
thing?
yeah, a little wind up thing.
just like movies.
There was weird like jars, like of I don't really know what it was. It was probably something that wasn't gross at
Eyeballs.
the time when it was put into a jar, but like now it was like black and like it really was stuff like in horror movies that you see. It was just like all these jars in this room, and there was one time where I got up to go to the bathroom. A lot of stuff happened when I got up to go to the bathroom, but like the back corner room that they cleared out for us was my office at the time, and I would always shut down my computer and everything at night, and the monitor was on, computer was on, and my speakers were playing audio from something. It was like a song that I was working on at the time was playing and stuff like that. And I know for a fact that I turned everything off. Just creepy stuff like that.
And-
So
oh, okay.
there was other things creepy too, like
The phone rang while it was unplugged, just like in the movies.
yeah. So that's what I'm going to get into.
Hell no.
Um,
Hell no.
yeah. So the phone, we kept the phone plugged in. Just at the when we first moved in, we're just like, well, if no one calls, we'll just leave it plugged in and whatnot. And it did keep getting calls, so we finally unplugged it. And we always got calls on the phone at night. Like, it was never during the day. Like, and it was unplugged. And it was super creepy. Like, we would, text the landlords and be like, hey, like, this phone keeps, like, ringing. Like, we're not really sure why it's unplugged. We did what you said. They never would respond when we would text them that. The only time they would respond was when we did something that was unsavory to them in their eyes. Like, with the doors being open to those rooms we weren't allowed to go in. They thought we were opening those doors. And that was another thing that was creepy, is that they would come to the house when we weren't there and wouldn't tell us. We would just get random texts saying, like, hey, like, we told you guys not to go in this room. We saw that the door was open, blah, blah, blah. And we would be like, no, like, we are not opening those doors. Like, we don't know if it's just an old house and they're just opening themselves. Like, we're not going in there. They didn't believe us. And we're just like, it was like, it ended up being like a source of contention between us, and that's why it ended up not working out.
Well, I'm glad
it was just
didn't,
the source
honestly.
of contention, not the fact that the house was
And
owned by
they
the
said
devil.
that their mom, the lady, didn't die in the house, but I'm just wondering if they told us that just because they wanted someone in the house. I don't know that for a fact, but so anyways, I've never had dreams this dark until I lived in this house. And one of the dreams that sticks out to me was basically I woke up in the dream because the motion alarm went off. And when this alarm goes off, it's like this huge dog barking in your ear. It's like a whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's so loud, and I shot straight up. Like, in the dream, and it felt real, and I woke up and I look over at Brittany. She's still sleeping. I'm like, hey, like, do you hear the alarm? She's like, yeah, like, kind of like a heavy sleeper. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go check it out. And she's like, okay. And I get up, and we had a bat in the room. I grab the bat. I go in the hallway, and I look down. Like, the way it was split up was like room, hallway, and then you kind of go out another door to the living room, and then the kitchen is down a ways. And so I go out, I turn the corner, the alarm's still going off. The only way you can turn off the alarm is in the kitchen. There's the code thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm making my way towards the kitchen, and I just see this, like, it looks like an older lady, like, standing in the kitchen.
Hell no.
And I just kind of, like, froze. Like, I just, like, looked at it, and it just was like, it was already, like, looking at me.
Excuse me.
And so, and then the lady, like, walks out of view, like, still in the kitchen, but walks out of view. And I start, like, coming closer. And as I'm walking towards it, the phone starts ringing. But she was holding the phone when she was standing there, and she put it down before she walked out of view. And it's just hanging disconnected and starts ringing. And the lady walks out of view, and I'm walking towards it. And I just, like, slowly, like, put the phone back up and hang it up. And then I look over, and I see her back is facing me. She's facing the other way.
Like out the window?
No, not out. I mean, the window was right there, but it was more like in the corner of the, like, counter space.
Mm-hmm.
So she's facing like the cabinets. And stuff.
Yeah, she's like facing the cabinets. And I walk in, and
With her stuff still in there.
And you're not dreaming. This
is a dream.
Oh,
This
okay,
is a dream.
But it didn't keep happening. or
Well,
something?
yeah. So I go in there, and my first instinct is like, hey, like,
What
are you
doing
okay?
here?
And the reason why I asked if you were okay or if she was okay is because something that the landlords mentioned when we first did the walkthrough was like, you may get like some older people like coming to the door, thinking that, she's still at the house, just let them know, and then, just tell them that you're the new tenants or whatever, blah, blah. I was like,
demon
okay.
friends.
So in the dream, it was like, I was freaked out in the dream, but I also was like, maybe this is someone who, like an older lady who like came in, whatever. And so I ask her, I'm like, hey, like, are you okay? And I kind of like start walking towards her and like just go to put my hand on her shoulder. And like she turns around and I'm just like looking at her in the eyes, and I just feel like this sharp sting in my like low, like I guess like right here, like the chest.
The diaphragm, yeah.
Yeah, the diaphragm. And I'm just like, it was weird because like right when I made eye contact with her, I felt that sting. And it was just, I just remember it so vividly, and like it was painful, and it was just like it gave me chills like throughout my body. And I looked down, and it's just
And I had a boner.
no, I did not. That is a negative.
Yo, the tension just shattered. I was, bro. Dude, hell no. My ass
let
would
him
have
finish, let him
bolted out of that house.
So
This is a dream. You say it's a
No,
dream.
regardless.
So I walk in, ask her how she is. She turns around, we make eye contact, and I feel that sting in my diaphragm. And I just look at her like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? And her mouth just opens, and the alarm comes out of her mouth. And that's when I wake up for real, and the alarm is going off for real. And Brittany's already sitting up, like, with her hand on my shoulder. And I'm just like,
Uh-oh.
I told her, I was like, am I dreaming? And she goes, no, the alarm's going off. And I was like, God. Like, and I'm so, like, shaken, dude. Like, after this dream, I'm like, I'm going to go in the kitchen. I'm going to get stabbed.
Speaking of your wife being a heavy sleeper, man, Rebecca's a heavy sleeper, and that gets on my nerves when I'm waking up and I've got, like, something to do or I need help doing something. And I'm just like, I can't find my wallet. And she's just like, just like, dog, help, please. Anyway.
Help me.
Love you, Rebecca.
So I wake up, and she's like, the alarm's going off, and I hear the alarm. It's super loud, and felt like I was just reliving the dream again. I grabbed a bat, and I peeked the corner first. I don't see anyone in the kitchen. I'm like, phew, the phone is still
I've seen
on.
this before.
The phone is still on the thing. Nothing weird's happening. So I go to the motion alarm, and basically I just unplug it. Like, I was like pissed because of the dream. I was like, you know what, this thing, because sometimes it would go off just like during the day, and it was just really annoying. So I just like I took it apart, unplugged it, and I hear the phone ringing. Oof. And I go, dude, I swear, like I was about to shit my pants.
You sound like you're trembling.
I am
now.
like I tell you, dude, like when I talk about this stuff, like it gives me like chills and stuff. Like it's creeping me out just talking about it. But basically, I go out and I see the phone. And keep in mind, like real life, I went out. There wasn't a person in the kitchen. The phone was on the phone thing, whatever. Unplug the alarm, and I go back out. The phone's ringing, and the phone is literally just hanging off, and it's just kind of like slowly swinging, like not like this intense swing. It's just a barely just going like this.
I'm about to cry.
And
Yeah, I never did like that house.
before I went down in the kitchen, I went back into our room. I said, "Babe, like,
We got to go.
get your phone out. Like,
we're
if
gonna
you
go to
hear
your
me
parents."
scream, like, just call 911 or call your mom or call my parents or something. Like, I honestly, I'm freaking out.
I'm gonna have nightmares tonight, dog.
I'm sorry,
I am
dude.
too. Every time I hang out with Jesse, I feel like I just go home and have a nightmare.
And keep in mind the ambience of the phone ringing is happening throughout me talking to her. So like I go out and the phone's just hanging. I walk in there and I'm like constantly like checking my six, and I'm going in and I look in the kitchen and there's no one in the kitchen. I just have this relief. The phone's still ringing. I just grab it and I hang it up. And that was that.
Oh, God. I thought
I did not
No, I
go
never-
back to sleep. Like I couldn't.
Bro, you a demon for just living in that
I
house.
thought you were gonna answer the phone, and it was gonna be like, you're just gonna wake up in the Matrix. You know, just
I would have
never-
took the Matrix over this.
Hearing that hurts me.
I never did like that house.
That well,
even the
I never
landlords
went there.
too.
I don't even think
I
we
don't
were
think
like.
you-
Were you
super
there for the
close.
Halloween?
yeah.
You-
I was barely there for the Halloween thing.
No, that
so
one-
just one last thing before I close off. There were, and I don't want to like mention names or anything, but there was other things weird that happened in the house. Like I said, like the landlords coming in unannounced when we weren't home.
Little
Like I
awkward.
think
That
that
sounds like seance stuff. or
that
like
played into
weird
effect. I
stuff.
think with just the whole vibe that we felt in the house was like just not really having control, and constantly like being told like, hey, we couldn't do stuff even though we weren't doing stuff, and then them like coming in without us knowing.
Old people just showing up at the house.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah,
we
no,
we
I don't-
literally so, and the thing was, Brittany lived there for 2 months by herself, and there were things that happened with her there that she's a little bit has a stronger stomach for that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
wouldn't mention it unless something like obviously was happening. But I'm not as
And
even
Brittany's
keeled
the
as her.
most gentle, sweetest
Yes.
soul on earth.
really
so
is.
if anything were to hurt her,
So, anyways, she lived there for 2 months. I moved in. I literally lived there for 2 weeks, and we moved out.
Yeah, that was a really bad time. Because it was right after the wedding, too.
Every time you talk about it, the only house I have envisioned was that first house that you guys stayed at when I would actually visit more.
Oh, the
often.
one like out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
that
Oh.
one.
Yeah,
Even
that was-
more out in the middle of nowhere.
That
was
one's
sweet.
pretty. That one was.
They
pretty
lived in the
creepy, just
basement.
at
Oh.
nighttime.
The
Where,
basement
like you
one.
lived in the
Yeah,
basement.
that one wasn't haunted.
No,
that one was
Those are some
fine.
sweet people.
Yeah, they were sweet. They got pissed off
I
though
just-
about the potato thing.
Oh, 'cause you guys
remember
were
that.
so loud.
Oh, that was a fun time. Though. What to do an episode
I
talking
see
about
you
the
shaking
potato.
right now.
I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, like,
I
I'm
can
not
smell
joking.
the stress sweat.
I'm
Yeah.
freaking out just talking
That's my
about it.
thing.
Like,
Yeah.
I know I'm probably gonna have like nightmares about it
It's gonna
again.
be okay.
But anyway, so that I'm sorry. I feel like
I didn't know
uncomfortable.
this. I did not know this at all. I didn't know any of that. I knew there was some weird stuff that happened with the landlords, but I didn't know any of that
There-
dark
there-
stuff.
there's more things, and maybe we can go into them at another episode and stuff. But that's the one that sticks out to me the most.
Didn't
I'm glad
didn't
we
we
ended
talk about like making like a short film about something that was
I
along
don't think
with
you
that?
should. That's scary.
No, we had
I
talked
watched
about. Do you
the
remember
shit out
that?
of that.
Do you remember us talking about that?
Well, we have a feature script written already.
We got it written.
We have
Oh,
the
we actually
second
ended up
draft.
Writing it.
It's already written. It's
Well, let's do
going
it.
through a third draft
It's a
though,
little
because I don't
spooky.
really love everything about. Anyway,
Anyway,
so
yeah.
that's my story.
Wow.
Put on the back
Well,
burner.
Right, well, this
Dang.
week's topic is serial killers.
Not to make this worse.
Who wants to go first? I feel like we don't get to switch it around enough. You
Tuck,
want-
if you want to go first, or
Alex?
I'll actually go last because I want to try to cut mine short. You know?
Okay.
sure, I'll go first.
wanna go
then.
first?
Yeah. So I actually did a Brazilian
Wax.
Brazilian wax.
Same train of thought.
negative Ghost Rider.
That's a
It's because we were talking about that the other
I
day.
actually did a Brazilian. So anyway, moving on to the subject.
Who wants to go next?
And you can. I don't want to get the racist gun, but I might butcher some of these. names.
I was just thinking like I'm gonna have to grab this in a second, but
And I'm not trying to come off wrong. I just don't know Spanish.
Brazil speaks
No,
Portuguese.
Sorry.
okay. Give him the.
I knew that. I'm actually going to Brazil soon, so I'll be there.
See y'all soon.
You better know they speak Portuguese.
And I learned some cool facts about Brazil along the way.
big.
So Pedro Rodriguez Filho was born on a farm in Santa Dorita,
course he was.
somewhere. And he was born with an injured skull because
Like most
his
serial killers.
father had beat his mother while he was in her room.
what did he just use him as the weapon? just like
no,
he
he
was
was
still
baby
in her
was still
stomach.
and he beat the mom.
oh,
Yeah,
while
he-
she was pregnant.
Yeah,
you
so he
said.
came
But
out-
that's such a common theme though, just from listening to
Serial
talk.
killer soup.
Yeah.
Always head trauma.
Yeah, they always have
something
head
with
trauma,
head trauma.
yeah. And I mean, like he literally does not know the difference between right and wrong, which is most of them. But some of them have like they kill certain types of people.
Yeah.
There is it's a lot more like methodical.
So he had the first
Justice
urge to
George.
kill someone when he was just 13 during a fight with his older cousin. The kid almost died, but he didn't kill him. But then when he was 14, he murdered the vice mayor of a town because the mayor had fired his father, who was a school guard.
At 14.
Yeah, at 14. So get this. So he murdered the vice mayor because he fired his father because his father was accused of stealing. But it was actually the other school guard that was stealing. So Pedro killed that school guard too
But
at the mere age of 14.
Did I do good, Dad?
No,
Son,
he ended up killing his dad too.
Oh, spoiler!
Am I still doing good, Dad?
Wait.
I just imagine Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite just killing people.
Oh, wait a
Pause real
second. My dad's dead.
pause real quick. What's this guy's name? Pedro what?
Pedro Rodriguez
Rodriguez?
Filho.
Philo.
So he actually didn't kill his dad
Long lost
yet.
relative.
He still loved his dad, kinda weird relationship. He took refuge after killing both those people. He took refuge in another town in Sao Paulo, where he started killing. He started killing drug dealers and was like looting people at the same time, which is a weird combination.
Robin
and then he met a woman that he met a woman that he fell in love with. They lived together until she got killed by some gang members. He ended up killing everybody until he found out who killed her.
John Wick.
Did you do it? No. Did you do it? No.
So
God.
before he was 18, he'd already had a body count of 10 and many countless injuries.
Dang.
So, and then while he was still in that town,
Hold on. How old was he?
by the time he was 18, he'd already killed 10 people. So then he executed his own father.
Executed?
Yes, after
Question mark?
I say execution because his father butchered his mother with a machete. So that's
Man,
how he
this
did.
family sucks.
So no,
Have
listen to
brain
this.
trauma too.
Like,
he probably
the
did.
mom.
A drinking problem, maybe.
so Philo killed his father, cut
Poor
out a
woman.
piece of his heart, chewed it, and then threw it away.
That poor
Didn't even
woman.
eat it. Just
His mom.
He was just defending his mom.
My mom did nothing wrong.
His mom just was surrounded by psychopaths.
Bro, and then
be like that sometimes.
yeah.
We love and cherish you. Mom. Moms out there.
Shout
Shout out
to
to
moms.
moms. All the moms.
Shout out
moms.
On moms.
On moms.
On mom.
So Philo was arrested in 1973. He was sentenced to prison and killed at least 47 inmates while incarcerated.
What? How do you kill 47 people and not get in trouble?
No,
No, he did.
47 inmates.
No, like while you're
dude.
in jail, like there's like another one.
Well,
So-
we can't take you to jail.
He's already-
They're here.
They're here.
No, this is where it starts like getting like the law system in Brazil starts getting crazier. So he already had like upwards of 100 bodies. Like he was convicted of 71 murders, including his father. So that's in 2003. He was sentenced to 128 years in prison.
2003.
And what's up?
He's in prison. He's in prison in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't care.
They're
doing him a favor.
Less to pay for, really. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at it that way.
Okay.
So what's crazy is, and then he got in trouble for the murders that he did in jail. But Brazilian law prohibits you from being behind bars for more than 30 years.
Oh
So
no.
this dude got
How
out.
recent is this?
They did a goof.
He said 2003 on that last one.
Yeah, he's under house arrest right now, so he's not roaming anywhere.
My boy kill 100 people.
You think he's not gonna walk out of his front yard? My man's
I mean,
Probably
murdered.
playing that
like-
new Spider-Man game. He's like, oh,
No, so he was sentenced to 128, and
Just imagine
Taking
the
a
guy
selfie.
From, the guy from Family Guy with the hair on his head. What's the what's the guy with the one patch of hair on his head on Family Guy?
Alfalfa.
oh
that guy.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
I imagine that guy just playing Spider-Man with the house arrest thing on his ankle.
dude, this guy, and then I don't know. This just made me feel some type of way. So then, for the crimes he committed inside the prison, his sentence was changed to 400 years. But he was let out in 2007 for serving after he served 34 years for the 4 additional years for the 47 people he killed inside jail.
I know we gave you 400, but 37's close
Bro,
enough.
that's not a bad deal. You kill like 47 people and only get 4 extra years for it.
So that place is going to be haunted for 400 years.
Oh, forever.
Bro, people were dying in that prison before he got there.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Oh, so he was on house arrest for a while, but now he's back in jail. He's gonna serve times for actually more. I guess for stuff that he got out of jail. Now he started some riots and got some people in prison
Okay.
that shouldn't have been there in the first place. And I could imagine a few more murders.
Probably.
That's
So
insane, though.
that was
he is-
Pedro Filo for you.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Pedro.
That sounds like a very interesting story, and I've never heard.
Because it was in
any.
Brazil.
I mean, these two watch or listen to a lot of serial killer stuff, study a lot of serial killer stuff.
Yes.
Never
and
heard
I've
of
never
it.
heard of
It
it.
sounds pretty cool, but also at the same time,
Terrifying.
I wonder
Shout out to last podcast.
what the
Shout
freak
out
is
Shout out to Mindhunters.
Shout out my favorite murder.
Dude, Mindhunters is amazing. The guy who plays Ed Kemper,
is Ed Kemper.
Thank you, bro.
he is,
The
dude.
bumblebutt.
He looks
best,
like a bumblebutt.
the best, one of the best actors on Netflix right now. Anyways,
That was good. That was really good.
Yeah, that was dope. I'm gonna go next, I guess, if that's cool with you guys.
Sure.
So I was talking to Rebecca about who I should do.
I'm expecting you when you reach out. I'm expecting
I
you
was
to grab my
talking
hand.
about.
me with
I was
that.
talking to Rebecca about who I should do, and because I wanted to do, I didn't want to do like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer, like the people that you hear about usually. And she was like, "Do Elizabeth Bathory because women. It's very sexist. Women can kill too. Nobody talks about women.
Was this the
killing.
prostitute in Florida?
Usually,
No.
the only
Oh.
female serial killer
No.
you hear about is Eileen Wardos, which
Yeah, she's taken all the trophies
Yeah.
for serial killers.
Because she's one of the biggest.
yeah.
But she ain't the only one.
And so yeah, me and Rebecca, she told me to do Elizabeth Bathory because that's what we do here at Medium, where we're progressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Women can do these things too.
Women can
They
be
have
serial
done
killers.
these things.
So Elizabeth Bathory, she was a Hungarian princess in the. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Like time frame, like general time frame.
I want to say it was like the 15 or 1600s.
So we get a pretty good idea.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
16th, 17th century.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was the 16th century. I can't remember. Anyway, she was believed to have killed over 650 of her servant girls. Her husband.
650.
They got a lot of servants.
She was a
Yeah,
princess.
She topped
You're the
Pedro.
next servant girl. And she's like,
They were like, too bad.
Bro, and she was
Gotta.
killing girls.
She bathed in their blood. So
And
Brahms
what's her last name?
Bathory.
makes sense.
Dude,
Wow,
a
Zerg.
lot of these serial killers have a fascination with blood, like drinking blood.
It's
like
important what you
using
name
that.
your children.
Vampire boy. What was his name? Vlad.
The Impaler?
Is it Vlad the Impaler?
Vlad the Impaler.
There was another one that used to grind up the rabbits. What was
Oh,
his name?
no, that was Pace. Robert Pace.
Robert Pace
or something like that.
He was incredible.
Yeah. I cut myself shaving.
Richard Chase.
Richard Chase.
Yes! Chase.
We got
you.
close. We were close.
Ace.
Anyway, speaking of Dracula, though, or Vlad the Impaler, Bram Stoker used her as inspiration also for Dracula.
Very cool.
She was the heir to the throne as Countess of Hungary. Her family was one of the richest in the world at the time. Her husband married her when she was 12. He was king of a noble warrior, and he was known as the Black Knight because he would kill a lot of people. He was like scary when he came on the battlefield.
Sounds like a scary name.
Yeah.
He tortured people himself, and a lot of people believe that he trained her. In his lifetime, they would kill and torture people together. So they, all
Power
the people,
couple.
there was a revolution against him, and so he found everyone who was a part of this revolution and tortured them. What?
And then got him killed.
Yeah, he
Like,
tortured
did you do
them.
it? No, you did.
He had a dungeon, and there I saw drawings and pictures and stuff of some devices that they used. They had one of a man naked, hung tied up upside down by his legs and arms, and there are two guys on either side sawing him from the penis to his head.
Oh,
Wow.
what
Nice.
a painful way. They,
Mega oof.
And what year is this?
And
What,
even
when
worse,
is this?
the 16th century, I think.
Okay.
This is a lot of sickness and illness, by the way, in
Yeah.
that time.
Yes.
And then another one that I saw was where they would, Daniel, our producer Daniel, knew a whole lot about this device. He's wild. He's
into
not.
that
He
kind of
doesn't
stuff.
use it. Obviously, he just knows a lot about like medieval stuff. But there was like a triangular prism, like a pyramid, and they would sit a person naked on top of the pyramid and tie weights to their feet, and they would slowly
Split.
split in half.
Through their butt.
Yeah, or their back. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the butt too.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
Why were they always so gruesome back then?
oh, they still are.
They still are. You just
I
don't hear
mean,
about
but
it.
you-
yet.
I mean, that's not being used today.
With all this emerging technology.
Well, that's another thing is that they were in an extremely high place of power, and they had a bunch of money to be able to do this kind of stuff, and it
But
was
why?
acceptable in their community.
But
I guess
why? Like, why would they do stuff like
they're
that?
sick and twisted.
to flex.
Yeah.
That is
Look
the
what we
ultimate
can do.
flex. That is it.
So when her husband died at war, the crown was financially unstable. So to keep themselves afloat, she started a school for young women held in the castle. So she was very smart. She was known for being extremely intellectual at the time. But that's when the rumors started happening because people were claiming their daughters were missing, and other women they would never return back from the school.
Right.
So
Red flag.
they can't. But like she's the crown, so like what are they
Can't
gonna
say-
do?
can't
Yeah.
say
They can't do
She's the
anything.
police.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do anything about it. People were so afraid of her that her entourage, when they came into town, people would hide their daughters from her, like they would hide their children away.
Right.
She then started kidnapping girls. Many people were called to investigate all of these allegations, but they were all made to protect Bathory, so she was never accused or convicted of anything at the time. But one method that I heard about a lot, or two, in the winter, she would take women out to the freezing cold Hungarian winter. And man, just put it down. It's fine. I'm sorry.
You can't really hear it. So.
The freezing cold Hungarian winter, and they would be naked, and she would douse them in water, and her and her like sidekick, I guess.
Yeah, her right servant or something.
Yeah, they would just watch them freeze to death. And then in the summertime, instead of doing that, they would take them out naked, cover them in honey, and tie them to a tree, and watch animals and bugs devour their body.
Nice.
So she continued her reign of terror by beating and burning girls to death. Some methods included sticking pins in their fingertips and actually biting off pieces of their flesh. When she was tired and they let her go...
I feel like women are more savage.
Hold on.
Chill with that.
Women serial killers.
Oh, she was tried, and they let her go because the citizens of Hungary, they didn't want to turn them against the crown.
Right.
So they just imprisoned her within the castle and just didn't tell anybody about
House
it.
arrest.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
on house arrest. Another one.
She eventually died in 1614 when they caught her. The chamber that she had tortured all these women. They found some women tortured to death. Some were still alive. Human remains were still in the fireplace, and a lot of human remains were scattered around the dungeon. But she would bathe in their blood, and it was pretty horrifying.
Keep the figure.
It just blows my mind like
figure.
that's a real person
She a
that
freak.
did that. Like, it's not a creepypasta or folklore. Like, that's
actually-
real.
That shit be
This
real.
is real.
That's just so
This is
jacked.
real.
Yeah. So I got all my information on that one from Eric Alden on YouTube. We'll have the link below, and then the podcast Lore. He talks about it
Sweet guys.
briefly on that. So I think it's like a 30-45 minute podcast about her. But yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's another really good one.
Yeah.
Literally
Really
makes
good
my
one.
Another one I
stomach
haven't
hurt,
heard
bro.
of,
Yeah.
which is
Never
very
heard of her?
interesting.
Never heard of
Huge
her?
body count.
Yeah,
Give it a
600.
new
What was it?
definition of body count,
650, roughly.
God.
She was
That's
killed. She
estimated.
literally killed her whole life until she died.
Wow.
What a life. What a life. Okay, well, I'll go on the same streak of doing another one that most people probably don't know. I did mine on the Atlanta Ripper. If anyone's
I
ever
do know that one.
Very
Tucker's like,
know about
damn.
it.
He's not one of the big namers, but we
Dang
do
it.
know him because he's Atlanta local, and his
I
story
don't
is
know
very
I
anything.
didn't know
interesting.
about him.
Go ahead.
I don't know about it, Tuck.
I've heard some stuff. I don't know a lot about him.
Okay. Well, just to give some backstory to it for those that don't know or if you know.
I don't know anything about this.
I was like, you probably wouldn't, but
Damn.
why? Why
that racist gun.
Just take it.
Tucker, you cannot refuse it.
can't make assumptions.
Yeah,
I
once it's
guess.
given to you, you can't refuse it.
Okay, so just to set the scene, it was okay. So throughout 1911 in Atlanta, Atlanta became the scene of like very gruesome murders within the city. All of the victims of the Atlanta Ripper were black or mulatto women in their 20s, which mulatto is like mixed.
Right.
Wait, so the killers?
I'll get into. I'm just setting the scene of like
Okay.
what it's like being.
I actually forgot that I do have a few more stories I want to touch on before we finish the show, if we have time.
We have-
Go ahead, go for it.
But it never was ascertained if it was a single person or a group of people, which is like a main thing about it. But Atlanta at the time was a great divide with the people in Atlanta. Most non-whites worked menial jobs, and the whites there wanted to keep their neighborhoods free of black people in their areas. Population at the time was mostly white, but once black families started moving in, many tried to keep more black families from moving into the area.
Right.
Once the murders started, many of the residents didn't bat an eye because they, racist. They saw it as a good
Yeah.
thing. They're getting rid of what they didn't want in their neighborhood. So for the murders, like the first murder was of this woman named Belle Walker. It was very underreported. There's like a back page story about it. Kind of just like this lady died.
This person
I won't
just
say
died.
what they said in the newspaper because it's
Yeah.
a little racist.
Yeah.
I will
so I'm not
actually-
going to say it.
If I could just add that a lot of these murders weren't very well reported
Oh, no.
because of the fact that they were black or,
Mixed.
mixed.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And that was not news, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what, another dead black person. And it was just really, it's a really sad time that it was like that back then.
And it
but
wasn't even that. Doesn't feel like that long ago.
It was in the
really.
1900s, the beginning
Yeah,
of
it
the 1900s.
was just a little over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But for with Belle Walker, her sister's the one that had found her near their home with her throat slit, and it became like the signature of the Atlanta Ripper, which kind of the reason why they give him the Atlanta Ripper. Just a quick side note on that is basically Jack the Ripper, kind of like the gruesomeness and style of killing women like Jack the Ripper did, who they never found either.
Right.
The same gruesome way he killed women. That's
So
just
they
literally
never
the-
found this guy.
Or did
never
they not
found out who
want
it
to
was
find him?
exactly.
It's just like Jack the Ripper.
It's
Right.
literally like almost like that's
why
they
it's
just
called
ripped
the
off the
Atlanta
name.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks later, there was another woman named Addie Watts killed, and no news on that either. And it wasn't until the 8th victim that they actually a front page like they were like, oh, this is actually happening, and it actually was reported. It was mostly like every Saturday. It happened every single there was like a Saturday period like every other week.
This was before a few of our stories have been like this is like before the term serial killer.
Oh, yeah,
had been
no.
invented.
Right,
Like
that
nobody
wasn't even-
knew much about like this kind of
That
stuff.
wasn't even like a coined term until like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
But-
Really until Ed Kemper.
Mindhunter explains
Yes.
all of that.
Exactly.
I'll read a quote that was from the news article, like with the 8th victim they actually started. I said, on account of the number of recent murders of Negro women, policemen advanced the theory that Atlanta has an insane criminal, something on the order of the famed Jack the Ripper. So, like, once the 8th victim, then we're like, oh, this is kind of like Jack the Ripper. So they kind of use it as like a publication, like, hey, we can get like more people buying the paper, if we can give him like a cool name that they can use to make money.
Was it the AJC or was it
I don't.
like?
It was just some. I think one of them was called like the Journal.
I mean,
Which
stuff
probably
like,
may have been the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
I was just
back in
curious,
the
like, if
day,
it was
but
still-
it was
It's
just
just-
called the Journal.
it's just like anything else. So you come up with these kinds of names and stuff just to get more people to want to read your magazine
Yeah.
or your
Yeah.
newspaper.
But like I said, like 5 Saturdays in a row, there was a period where a black or mulatto woman was murdered.
It was just those Saturdays, and
It was
then
like
stopped
Saturday,
after
yeah.
those 5.
Well, no, there's more. There's
Okay.
more to it. Like this is a graphic part, so for those who are a little squeamish, I want to just kind of
Yeah.
explain like.
Yeah, well, we've gotten past a whole.
Well,
lot
no,
of
but I didn't go into
creepy stuff.
detail. Like I said, they.
I'm talking about our stuff.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
It's- it was
Yeah.
Okay,
pretty brutal.
so all the victims were choked unconscious first, and then had their throats slit from ear to ear, and some were disemboweled. On some cases, they found one of the girls on the railroad tracks that had her heart ripped out.
Just real quick, disemboweled. What exactly is that?
Disemboweled, like having
Taking
like
out
your
your guts and
your
stuff.
guts and stuff.
They take out your intestines and spring them all over the place.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're just literally gutting people. That's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah, but see, the weird thing about it too, which I guess this kind of goes to Jack the Ripper too, none of the victims were raped. Like no sexual.
Right.
Like at least I don't know exactly Jack the Ripper. If they could really tell. This
Right.
was like that was 40 years before this. I think.
That's
It
the
was
thing, though, with
1870s or
a lot of
80s.
serial killers, like the actual hunt and the killing.
Yeah, it's
is
like
the
a
sexual
what's it? Not
sexual
product,
release.
process killer.
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
definitely a process killer.
In love with the process itself.
None of the I said that already. In total, over a year into 1912, the Ripper claimed 20 victims with the same markings on all the victims. Handful of people were said to have survived attacks from men who fit a description that came to be as the Ripper. Like there were some people that would come across a tall, like stocky black man. A lot of them said black that that came at them, and one lady said he's like, oh, I don't hurt pretty women like you. Then she turned to go away, and he stabbed her in the back, but she was able to run away and then survive to
knife
tell
in
the
her
tale. Yeah, but so there were actually some arrests that they made in it, but each time there would be like more murders that would happen. So they clearly didn't get the right guy, unless it was kind of like the group thing, which is why they could never tell. And like to this day, no one has officially caught or been ever found to be the Atlanta Ripper. and no one ever likely will. Like with it being that old, like
Right.
I mean,
Not a lot of reporting or
Yeah.
anything on it.
but most of the information I got for this was from Troy Taylor Books blogs. It's like just a blog that someone did on a book or that was about the Atlanta Ripper. So.
Keeping it local.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted I know because the last episode I did, or the one way before was like Lake Lanier,
Lanier,
kind of local. So I just thought I'd kind of fit the
Keep up
mold.
with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
That was
I just-
interesting.
I'd just like to note this because we kind of got into like the process, the sexual kind of connotation to like the process killer and like the product killer who are like either in love with the process of murdering or like the product thereafter, like the body itself, is that the reason you don't see a lot of female serial killers, or at least, you know, there's not as many widely known as like the male serial killers, is because it's so much more common for a male's like wires to get crossed with sex and murder or evil and death. You
Most
know?
women is not safe.
Right, and most women it has nothing to do with sex in any way, and so like that's why it's so much more common. And then they have like that male sexual drive, which is like they just have that drive to kill instead of have sex, or you know,
Both.
right, exactly. So
And that was a good point you were talking to Jesse about. That literally killing for some people was like the whole sexual arousal.
yes, it completely
Oh,
is.
there's
Since we're
tons
talking
like
about
that.
this, I'm going to go ahead and say the story that I had. It's really quick, but I went to a psych ward in college because I studied abnormal psychology for a term for easy credit. Not really easy credit, but just for a credit. Anyway, we went to a psych ward here in Georgia, and I met a lot of murderers, and they were all under like medication and stuff. I talked to this one guy about music and Andre 3000 because he really liked Andre 3000, and I was just talking to him. He was cool. Another
Like,
guy I
you
talked
killed
to.
someone. You know that, right?
Yes, he did. That's exactly how the conversation went. I talked to him. I talked to another guy who was really cool. Talked to him about like superheroes and stuff because he had a superhero shirt on.
Right.
Another woman thought she was married to Michael Jackson. A lot
Did
of
you let her
very
know?
common,
Did you let her
very
know?
common.
Yeah.
Did you let her know that he passed away?
No, this was before that.
Oh,
I
so you-
think.
No.
No.
No,
It was
he
after he
passed away
passed
in,
away.
like,
It was after he
08 or
passed
something.
away. Yeah.
Even
But
before that,
anyway,
maybe.
we get back to the meetup room with like the people who run the place, and they were like, "Who met this guy?" And I raised my hand. I talked to him, or I said that I talked to him. And they were like, "Oh, well, he escaped from prison and grabbed a woman, put her in the trunk of a car, and lit the car on fire."
Wow.
And I was like,
Nice.
"Whoa!" And then the guy that liked superheroes or whatever had murdered his mom.
Okay.
A lot of crazy stuff. Anyway, but yeah, speaking of the psychological stuff, it made me think about that. I completely forgot that I even went there.
I do have a couple stories on like, you know, another podcast that we can do about like my dad's experience in psych wards that are really interesting because he used to work in one for a while.
Wow.
But
Trying.
my serial killer is not like any of yours. He's very well known. He's one of the biggest, and it's Jeffrey Dahmer. But it just happens to be because he's one of my favorite to study, because his story is almost like you can clearly see his descent into madness, which is like, it's harder, like the water gets muddy with a lot of other serial killers as to how they end up becoming what they are. But Jeffrey Dahmer, his story is so clearly laid out, and he doesn't come from a hard like.
He was just weird from the beginning.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah,
doesn't. He doesn't
definitely.
come from a weird background of like his parents. You know, he doesn't have a bad home life. He wasn't an orphan. He didn't really have a
He's
hard
just
home life.
Weird.
Yeah, he's just a weird guy.
He had head trauma too, though, didn't he?
I believe so,
I
but I
wanna
think it
say
happened
he
when he
did.
was younger.
Because I know he
Which
was
is
like
the
normal.
worst time to get
Yeah, I
trauma.
think he was like normal when he was like a kid, like
Little
1,
kid,
2, and then like
yeah.
3 or 4, he had like an accident or something, like he hit his head. And like,
But like you
There you
said,
go.
he was extremely weird, so very lonely and socially awkward. He had a deep obsession with the anatomy of animals. And so he would go and pick up roadkill off the side of the road and dissect it and put them in jars, preserve them and stuff like that. But the real problem that happened is that this is all happening during his sexual awakening, basically, of the puberty of the teenage boy. And so somehow these wires got crossed.
Yeah.
And it got attached to the mutilation of bodies and that kind of thing. And what a huge thing that contributed to it is that he was a young kid that was a homosexual growing up in a homophobic United States, and so it was so socially taboo to be
His
gay.
parents were like heavy Christians, right? No,
They were Methodists, but
Methodist.
Are they
I
from
think it was
Wisconsin or
Methodist.
something?
Wisconsin, which is
Yeah.
a very blue collar,
Yeah.
very conservative, and it's a conservative time.
Yeah.
It's a time where you didn't, people were still treating homosexuals with shock treatment and stuff like that, putting them in insane asylums.
When was this again? I'm sorry.
This is the 60s, 70s.
Okay.
60s,
Hold on,
70s.
who got shock treatment?
A lot of homosexuals.
Oh.
No, Jeffrey Dahmer didn't. But
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I knew that. Like people saw it as like.
When he was a kid, it
mental
was in the
disability.
60s. Like his main prime of doing stuff was the 60s. though.
He was, he grew up in like the
Okay.
50s. But his, around that time, they were still viewed as a mental illness. And so, when he was masturbating as a kid, instead of picturing men, he would picture these mutilated animal bodies, because it was like he had to picture anything but like what he was sexually
right.
attracted to, and that
Wow.
was what he was
He
around
was
all
just
the
trying
time.
not to be gay.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
he just didn't want to be.
Essentially,
I-
trying not to be gay.
Oh, that's just. I mean, like I like don't feel bad for him, but at the same time, like
You
wow,
understand.
Yeah.
You understand why, and that's why I think this
Well,
is so interesting.
That's a thing that I have with like serial killers and stuff. Is like we all see them as sick people because I mean they are.
Yes.
And
Clearly.
And they do
yeah.
absolutely
They're
terrible
definitely
things.
terrible things,
But
but,
they are
you have
human.
to have a sense of empathy with these people because they don't know that sometimes they don't know what they're doing is wrong.
They're not introspective. Like we can see what went wrong.
right.
I don't believe that he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Right.
He absolutely knew, but it was the fact that
It's hard to explain.
he got his wires crossed, and the strongest driving force in his life was the sexual desire for like
Men.
a corpse.
Yeah.
or
Yes, because he couldn't
Yeah,
get
right,
over that.
Right.
But eventually he invites a guy over for drinks and for sex. He kills the guy in his parents' house, cuts him up, hides the body, and beats his bones into pieces and buries them below the house. And then he goes into the army. He quits murdering for a long time. He really,
There's just the one kill.
yes, I believe so. And he's really like honestly scared that but he seems to straighten out during the military. It seems like a really good thing for him.
But no one knew pre-military that he'd kill anyone. Right?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, nobody knew until the very end, and
Mm-hmm.
he confessed everything. But so he gets back, and he seems to be doing good. He's on the up and up. He goes to a gay bar and invites the guy back to his hotel room, and he gets blackout drunk. That's another thing. As a kid, he's a raging alcoholic his whole life, essentially. He gets blackout drunk with this guy, wakes up, and the guy is dead next to him. So he beat this man to death while he was blackout drunk.
Oh my god.
Hit his body, did the same thing that he did before with the first guy, hit him under his parents' house. Eventually,
He took him out of the hotel and went to his parents' house.
cut him up into pieces, and
And
then
put him-
took him into the parents' house and buried him below the parents'
Wow.
house.
He would literally bring him in like bags.
Yes.
He'd bring him in
'cause
bags.
He would have to cut him up.
You bring him in bags.
Like trash bags.
Um,
What you got there?
sorry,
Stuff.
Garbage.
I'm
Shout
trying.
out to garbage.
You didn't
Shout
come
out
in
to
with anything.
The challenge is to try and condense this as much as possible.
Yeah.
But basically, the way he would, after that, he moved into an apartment and was just killing boys, young minority boys. His total death toll was 17, and he would take these boys back with him, strangle them or drug them, strangle them, and then have fun with their corpses. essentially,
And these were all homosexual boys.
Well, not all boys.
not-
There were some
no,
of
they
them
were all-
men.
yeah, but most of them were young.
They were young, of
mostly like around 18 or below.
Okay.
Most of them, and then he attempted to try and make them sex zombies by pouring acid and boiling
Yeah.
water into their head, or injecting it.
Yeah, I knew that.
He would drill. He used to drill holes in their
Yes,
head.
and he was extremely obsessed with like the torso itself. So when they finally found out, they found his apartment. 4 human heads in his refrigerator, 2 human hearts, a full human torso with many more dissolving in acid, a bag of human organs, including male genitalia.
Yeah.
and he would eat them, but it was like,
Yes.
I don't really feel like going to the grocery store. I got this meat here.
Well, he didn't eat them like to satisfy like he was a cannibal or something like that.
That's
well,
what I'm
he
saying.
was a cannibal, but he ate them so that they would become a part of himself
Yeah.
forever.
Oh.
Is essentially because he didn't want to let them go.
Yeah.
He wanted to preserve these forever.
I've heard like a lot of psychopaths that do
Dude,
that.
the fact
Extreme
that he could
control
recall
complex.
all of them, like,
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yes.
each seven. I
In
feel like
detail.
if I were like a
all we-
psychopath murderer, I'd like lose one along the
How
lines.
many total were there?
17 in total.
God.
There's
Um,
one he's known for, which I don't know if you really mentioned it. There's pictures of it. This one, if you mostly like look up some of the stuff, you'll see one of them was that he had. Is you can see he's like one of the dudes that he had killed is in like the bathtub and his head's gone.
Yeah.
And he's like leaning like facing all the way back like in the bathtub like it's.
There's a lot of
twisted.
terrible
If you want to
crime
go
scene
look
photos.
it,
I don't.
Want to go look it up.
I don't.
you
You
don't.
probably
I sure
don't, but it is really bad.
It's pretty
Anyways,
gruesome.
he gets arrested. There's a long, horrible trial. He admits to everything. He goes to jail. Eventually, he gets beaten to death in prison.
Yeah, he got sodomized by a broomstick, and that's how he died, right?
No, he got beat over the head with a
Then
barbell.
I
say
thought-
that's how Alt J wrote that song.
Yeah.
I thought that he got sodomized with a broomstick at some point.
No, he might
That might
had
have been a
one.
different one, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He got beat. The way he died was he got beat over the head
right.
with a
He probably
barbell.
died that way, but I feel like there was. a
He might have,
broomstick
but he
and a
also
butthole.
egged on a lot of stuff because he would not eat his food. He would just like shape it in like the shape of arms and stuff and pour ketchup all over it to make it look like mutilated bodies or body parts.
Dude.
Just trying to egg people on. He wanted to die. He
Mhm.
wanted to be killed in prison,
Mhm.
and he eventually was.
Mhm.
And
I mean, rapists, murderers, molesters, they always like end up. A lot of them end up dying in prison.
Absolutely.
By murder.
yeah, but he wanted it to happen. He egged it on. He said when they were arresting him, he said, "I deserve to die for this."
Mhm.
Like immediately when they found
Also,
out.
Ed Kemper said that. Speaking
Yeah.
of Ed Kemper,
Yep.
from before.
It's just brings home the point that they know what they're doing is wrong. It's just
Right.
He knew he
Just
hit it
so
all
crazy.
along, and that's why it was so ingrained in his memory.
Yeah, if you didn't think it was wrong, you wouldn't hide it. That's like the main.
Exactly.
Or you'd forget about like one or two at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well,
that's
anyway.
it.
All right, so we're gonna end the show on that happy note.
I like it.
I just want to give a special thanks to Kyle Kahn at Kyle Kahn Studios for the space that we do the podcast, and also a big thanks to All the Rest at All the Rest Music for the jingle. All right, love you guys.
One more
Thank you
thing.
so much.
One more thing, real quick.
Oh.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, the best
Yeah.
day of the year.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Stay cute.
Thank you.